Hello, my name is Houston Haynes, and I'm from the Green Valley Church of Christ. So before LTC this year, I had never heard Romans 8:37. And no, in all these things, we are more than conquerors through Him who loved us. I had never heard it, but now I love that verse. It's kind of one of those verses that you want to put on a sticker and just apply it to everything. Should I cheat on this test? No. In all these things, we are more than conquerors through Him that loved us. Should I bring my brother to a pulp for being annoying? No. In all these things, we are more than conquerors through Him who loved us. So, you start thinking, what is a conqueror? Personally, when I first heard it, I was thinking knights, medieval Europe, you know? But then you look into history, and you find the term Los Conquistadores. They were, the conquistadors were Spanish soldiers sent over to the New World, which is now modern-day Mexico, Florida, and the Caribbean, and they went to go conquer nations, tribes, get new land for Spain, and gold. So, the most famous of these was Hernan Cortez. Some of you might have heard him. He went over and he took a whole empire of Aztecs in modern-day Mexico City with just a handful of soldiers himself. It's a pretty good story if you ever want to look into that. But wherever these men went, they were bent on conquest. But, of course, they were facing trials every day. For a couple, disease, hostile natives because no one wants their land taken away, and unknown terrains, things they'd never seen before back in Spain. But we Christians, we are also faced with issues like these every day, aren't we? Only being more than conquerors, ours are definitely more difficult. We have sin, which infects us and internally damages us more than any disease ever could. We have Satan, who attacks us, follows us more fervently than any warrior ever would. And lastly, we have been called to walk through a world so covered in sin and evil that our walk is so much bumpier than any unknown terrain. And another way Christians relate with conquerors is not in just our problems, it's in our duties. Conquerors went to conquer nations, like I hinted to earlier, take over land for their country. We, brothers and sisters, have been called to take the world for our King, haven't we? And not just lands and nations like the conquistadors. We're more than conquerors. We take more than just land. We want the hearts and souls of every person who ever lived on this earth for our King and our kingdom. We want people to worship our Jesus, and we're going to conquer people for Him. And when Jesus sent us out from this quest, He knew that we couldn't do it ourselves. He gave us a weapon, like all conquerors would have. Not a sword. I was going to bring a sword, but I didn't think the hotel would let me. Not a sword, or bow and arrow, spear, cannon, nuclear bombs, nothing like that. He gave us His Word, the Bible. Revelations refers to it many times as the sword that comes out of the writer's mouth. It's the most powerful weapon He could ever give us. And lastly, conquerors, they went back to Spain. They became rich, they became famous, everybody knew about them. And that's kind of what we're hoping for, isn't it? One day we're going to go home to our real home in heaven, only more than conquerors. We're going to have streets of gold, mansions, and we're going to walk with the person that created the earth. Brothers and sisters, we are more than conquerors. We're the hands and feet of Christ.